Today I have the same thing I had last week, apple root. But this is the cutoff piece that I took from that apple root, and it's been sitting here staring at me saying, turn me, turn me. So I'm gonna turn me, turn me. You can see I've already drilled a hole here for my woodworm screw. I debated if this should be the top. Normally it would be, but I really like the profile that we have going here. I'm not going to change that at all. I'm not going to turn the outside. I'm only going to flatten off the bottom. Currently about 3 inches tall. It's going to be about 2 inches tall by the time I get this high part turned away. But it's going to be a cute little bowl. It's going to have an opening in it, as you can see. So that'll be right inside the bowl, on the side of the bowl. And this is going to be a pretty little piece, a quick little piece, a fun little piece. I'm looking forward to it. I hope you are. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or as we like to say here at Shady Acres Woodshop. Howdy, let's get to it. And this comes to us from my good friend Dave at Calmwood Creations. If you saw last week's video, you know that. If you didn't see last week's video, I'll link to it here in your upper right hand corner. We're going to be turning at 1200 RPM, 5/8 inch bowl gouge, mask, and face shield on. Well, what do we got? A mess, that's what we got. I did not sharpen before we started, and I'm going to. We still have this low spot here where it bevels away from everything else. I'm going to go a little bit further with flattening, and then I think I'm going to take advantage of that and kind of bevel the rest of this out as well. Well, that is plenty hard wood. I started my bevel, but maybe a little too soon. Just trying to find a place for a base here for it. We've got it about 2/3 of it, well, half the way there, and then a little bit over here. And I guess our tenon isn't going to be a complete tenon either, is it? Well, that's probably more than I wanted to do. No, it looks okay. I still haven't gotten down to this part yet. I think I'm going to lay out for a tenon and make the tenon, and then that'll give me a better idea of what I can do. Let me get set up for that. The wood's so hard, my pencil won't even mark it. Jeez, how could that be? I guess I can see it, I don't know. I'm going to switch to this diamond point tool to square up the sides of the tenon. How much of a tenon do we actually have? Well, most of one. That'll work. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to creating a base as best I can, and a little more beveling on these edges. Well, these wood chips in my eyes must mean I forgot to put my face shield back on. Well, you know, I know that looks all hacked up, but it ain't done yet. But I'll tell you, I think I'm done turning. We have a base, got from here to here, so that's almost half. And then we've got here. I think it's going to set up real nice. This looks like where it was split with an axe. And I think I'm just going to leave that. I'll sand it up a little bit, but there's still going to be some axe grooves in there. And this bevel out here doesn't match this bevel, but that's okay too. I know if you're a first time watcher, you're thinking this guy is just crazy. And I might be, but I think you're going to like the outcome. Stick around. Time for sanding. Just as I did with last week's piece, because this is so coarse, so nasty. It's sharp everywhere. It doesn't feel good. This bark is really, really rough. I'm going to start at 100 grit. So this will be the second time I ever used 100 grit on my Sandoflex to sand a piece. But again, like last week, I'm going to sand just lightly with this. I just want to take off the really, really sharp parts. And then I'll switch to 120 and then 180, and that's as fine as I'll go on the unturned parts. When I'm done with that, I'm going to switch to my 2-inch disc. I don't know if I'm even going to spin the piece. I'm not sure I even can. I'll probably try it. Well, let's see. Put it in reverse. I'll try it at about 400 RPM. I'll try sanding the turned parts. So I'm going to have to stop now and then. And I'm going to sand this a little bit, these pieces, and I'll probably have to do that individually like this. But I'll try and sand the turned parts, which is here and here and here, with it spinning. I don't know how it's going to work. Anyway, I'll show you what all that's going to look like as soon as I get my mask on. So like that, I'll be doing more of it, of course, and like I said, up through 180. Then we'll try spinning it. I can't really tell what I'm getting and what I'm not getting. I guess I turned this right here. I didn't turn this. I didn't turn this. I did turn this and this. I can't tell what I'm getting. So like that, up through 400 grit, and I'll bring you back and we'll put some sanding sealer on there. See you in a while. It's going to be a while for this. Well, I thought this was going to be quick and easy. How quickly I forget what last week's was like. And this is exactly the same wood, same issues. It's just a little smaller. Sanding time was cut in half, so about 3.5 hours instead of 6 or 7. I just can't believe myself. But it's done now, at least the outside is. A lot of this has to be brushed, of course, almost the whole thing. There's so many places like where these grooves are from the axe marks, I guess. I don't think they're chainsaw marks. It was too torn up for that. Yeah, I'm just gonna go to the brush. I can't reach hardly anything. I'm not gonna show you all this. This is gonna take a real long time getting in all these places. It's just art. That's all it is. It's just meant to look at. Just like if you hang a painting on the wall or you have a statue somewhere or something. It's just meant to look at and appreciate the beauty of the wood against the contrast of the bark and the bark inclusions and the natural cracks and voids and whatnot. And that contrast is what I'm always after. And you can see it makes a huge difference. Now all of this is smooth. It may not look like it, but it is. You can run your hand anywhere you want to, and you will want to. And I've been doing that, of course, as I sand, and it's like you can't even find a place to, you can't rest your hand anywhere. It won't stop. It just keeps feeling and feeling and feeling. So I'll bring it back tomorrow, and we will start working on the inside, which should be far easier. Okay, there you go. You got the idea. It's not done. See you tomorrow. Well, I'm probably going to regret saying this is going to be an easy turning on the top. It's not. Got this huge gap to deal with, and I know it's there, and I expected it, and I told you about it in the beginning, but it's going to be a bear to sand because it's going to want to catch my sanding disc as it goes around in there. And then we have this split here. We'll see how it goes. I do want to stay inside of this hole. I want to keep this hole right here. I kind of like it. Peek. I checked it, and if I hold my finger just inside of it, we're going to be about right anyway, because we'll run right off the edge over here if we're anything beyond that. So I think it's safe to keep it, and I think we need to keep it. We're going to be turning at 1225 RPM, half-inch bowl gouge, mask and face shield on. I'm starting from the inside and coming out, which is backwards from normal, because I'm thinking this is end grain. Well, it is end grain, and it's just much easier to do that. However, this one's fighting me. I guess because it's a root ball, the grain's going every which way, so I'm going to try going this way. It's a lot more comfortable to go this way, but I don't know if it'll be a good idea. Sometimes I get asked about, aren't you afraid that your chisel's going to get caught in one of those cracks that you deal with? No. At a high speed like this, if it were returning at 300 RPM, maybe it would be an issue. But at this speed, it goes by there so fast, there's no chance in heck that I'm going to get chisels stuck in there. It's just not going to happen. I don't know what that is, feet per second, but it's a lot. Somebody will tell me. Some of you guys are just math wizards, I'm telling you. Remember, it's just art. Don't stick your M&Ms in there. They're going to fall right out the bottom. Well, we got about a total of 3/4 of an inch. Well, you know, I just noticed, I didn't see it before. This crack, of course, this is just a bark inclusion here, so that doesn't really count. It's not connected here. It's not connected anywhere, and it goes clear over here. And I still have to remove the tenon, which is helping hold that together, I suppose. Other than that, we have this. So I'm not going to make the bottom as thin as I might normally, maybe a 1/2 inch thick instead of a 1/4 inch thick, just to be sure that there's some wood here to keep the piece as one rather than as two. I don't know if you can hear it, but I can hear it getting pretty hollow. And then, so this is that crack, and then here there's another one. They don't quite touch, but it's getting pretty close. I think I'm going to scrape it and call it good. I call it good. Time for sanding. Well, I tried it. I tried sanding with my 2-inch disc. I can sand here, the border around it, but I can't sand in there. It just chews up my disc. These are expensive. These are like $6 for this part right here. A lot of times this happens. That's this part here. It just gets knocked loose, and it's happening from this right in here. It gets caught on there and here as well. So then what, I said to myself. Then I thought, okay, I'll just try my Sandalflex. And I was working with 80 grit in here. This is 100 grit, and it worked. The problem is I can only go to 320. That's the finest I have in a Sandalflex grit. That's the finest they make as far as I know. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use this to sand the whole thing up through 320. The good news is, for whatever reason, and I've never been able to figure it out, and I've been using these for years, using this seems to do a better job than anything else. Like I said, this is 100 grit. It feels, I've already tried it, it feels like about 240. It's quite smooth already. So that's pretty amazing. So going to 320 won't be a problem. It'll be smooth. Anyway, so as soon as I get my mask on, I'll show you what that looks like. And I have the lathe spinning forward at 400 RPM. I could do this part out here as well, but what'll happen is it'll get the outside, which is already finished, and I don't want to do that. So I will do this part with my 2-inch disc with the lathe spinning in reverse. So that's real easy. So I'll bring you back here in a bit and we'll put some sanding sealer on there. See you in a bit. Well, for a quick and easy, this was a lot of work. But I think it's so cool looking. I hope you feel the same way. And someone always says, you know, you could have filled that with clear epoxy and it would be useful and you could still see that there's a crack there. Seeing isn't the point. The point is there's a crack there. It's a natural crack. It's what happened to this piece of wood. It's part of the tree's history, and I like it. And if there was epoxy there, I couldn't go like that. I couldn't feel the inside. I have nothing against epoxy. I watch a lot of guys use it. My favorite is Andy Phillip. He's just a genius with it, and he knows how to mix color, and it's absolutely gorgeous. And I'm sure there's a lot of other guys that can do very good as well. It's just not what I do. I appreciate what they do, and I prefer to do what I do, that's all. That sanding turned out way better than I thought it was going to. I'm not sure quite what's going to happen right here in the middle. What I mean by that is, when I say I don't know what's going to happen, you know, I'll be removing the tenon. That's right where the tenon is. So I don't know if some of that's going to go away. I don't usually remove the entire tenon, so it might be just fine. I just like to show what can come from a piece of scrap. And if you filled it all in with everything, then it might not look quite like a piece of scrap anymore. I always like to come behind the brush with fresh sealer on the rag to wipe up those brush marks or any runs that might have occurred quickly before they dry, because they're hard to remove once they are dry. Looks better now than it did when we started, right? I think it looks pretty cool. Kind of looks like a flower, kind of. Okay, I'll bring you back later and we will take the tenon off. Hope that doesn't fall apart. See you later. So Kelvin, it's time to polish the piece after applying the shellac. Oh geez. Did you turn the camera on?
Oh, yes, sir.
Oh, God.
Sorry.
Hold on, folks. For those of you that don't know Kelvin, this is my son-in-law, Kelvin.
Howdy.
And I'm here, too. Kelvin came over to help me with something else, and anyway, I was showing him that I buy these 3M pads. This is a gray one. This is comparable to 2/0 steel wool. This is a white one comparable to 4/0 steel wool. And then I cut them up into little rings like that. Like that. And that's how I buff bowls. On the outside, it's okay to use these as is. Fold them up, of course. Don't have a big old piece hanging out here. Fold it up. Do your outside like that when it's turned around the other way. But when you do the inside, if you do that, you'll end up with a swirl here in the bottom. And I'm talking to you and I'm talking to Kelvin because Kelvin wanted to know how this works. So bear with us here for a second. So I cut them up into these little circles. Then I set my lathe up to spin, in this case, in reverse. I have my drill set in reverse. I'm going to spin the lathe up to about 1,000 RPM and I'm going to polish. And then before I move on, I like to bring the light down here and really look the piece over. I get good and close. I look at it from all angles. I'm looking for any runs or lines in the piece, anything I might have missed. If it looks good, and it does, I like to blow it off. Kind of like cleaning up between grits of sandpaper, which I do every time when I'm sanding. Pull off the gray one, put the white one on, and you just put it on just like a sanding disc. And do it again. Now there's no need to get down there with your light looking at it real close, although I can bring you in close if you want to. And look for any flaws. There's no need to on the white one because we took care of that on the gray one. Now we're just putting kind of a good shine on it. What do you think of that? What do you think of that, Kelvin? Step in there, take a look.
Wow. I think that looks amazing.
How does it feel?
Smooth. It's nice and smooth. Yes.
All right, good, good. So that's what I do between coats and after the final coat. Actually, I just use the gray one between coats, just the gray between coats. Then I use the gray one and then the white one, and then it's done. So Kelvin, I'm gonna take the tenon off. Do you wanna watch this?
Yes, sir. I would love to see it. I see you do it all the time online.
All right, cool. Here we go. So I've mounted a block of wood up in my chuck. It has a non-slip surface on it. I'm gonna put my bowl up here and bring up the tailstock. I still have the center hole there for reference, so I can just drive my live center into that. You see how easy that is?
Yes.
And then apply a little pressure, and we'll bring up the tool rest. We'll spin the piece up, see if it looks like it's running true. Pretty dang close. Turn it up to about 600 RPM. I'm going to use a 3/8 inch bowl gouge and commence removing that tenon. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we have to be careful what it is we're doing here because we don't have a whole tenon. You see that big crack, Kelvin?
I do.
Yeah, well, that's not good. I'm going to have to be really careful. I may not be able to finish this on the lathe, but I'll try and get as close as I can. I gotta tell you, this is kind of scary, but I guess it's okay. I'm just trying to imagine what it's going to be like when that's gone. Not good, maybe. And this one, remember when I was talking about, people asked me if the gouge would catch in the crack, and I said not at these high speeds. Well, we're not at those high speeds anymore. So that adds to the excitement, doesn't it? I'm going to check to see if I have clearance yet. I do have clearance, but that doesn't help much with the excitement part. What I'm trying to do here is just get this as small as I possibly can, and then I'm going to have to take it to the workbench and chisel off whatever I can't do. But I normally press against the bottom with the bevel of the gouge, and I'm not going to be able to do that because I'll press it right into that crack. And that will make a mess. So I'm just trying to get it a little bit smaller, and then I'll take it off and finish it at the workbench. Okay, that's it. I'm not afraid for me, I'm afraid for the wood. We're so close, but I'm going to take it over here to the workbench. Boy, I'm glad you're here, Kelvin. You can hold that for me while I chisel it.
Yes, sir.
All right, let's get at it. Turn it for me a little, would you, Calvin? This way. Thank you, sir.
I think she's about ready to blow.
Well, she better be, or I'm going to.
There she blows.
All right, good job, Kelvin. So what's next?
Sanding.
Oh yeah. Okay, I'll show you how.
All right.
Be sure you stick around to the end of the video so you can see the before and after shots of this piece. If you'd share the video, I'd really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Well, here it is. One apple scrap, beautiful bowl in the books. What do you think? Isn't that gorgeous? Look at that wood. Look at the natural cracks and voids, and I hope I'm not trying to convince you. I hope you see what I see. Look at that. Do you see what I see? Nature, history. Look what this piece has gone through. I love this sort of thing here where it looks like the tree was stressed. I don't know what that kind of grain is called, but it just looks stressed. It's still fairly heavy. It's a very substantial piece. It's gorgeous. Now remember, this is the scrap from last week's turning that I did. So if you haven't seen that video, remember I put a link up there. It's also down in the description. You'll see it. Take a look at that video and see the kissing cousin of this one. Or I guess they're siblings, aren't they? Yeah. Okay, well, I hope you like it. Let me know what you think. Thank you, Dave from Calmwood Creations, for sending this along, and Kelvin for stopping by today.
Yes, sir. I enjoyed watching you work.
For all to enjoy. If you like this video, thumbs up, please. I'd sure appreciate it. If you're a subscriber, thank you so much. I truly appreciate that. If you're not a subscriber, you might consider becoming one. I put out regular videos about one a week, and I keep in touch. I appreciate you taking your time to spend with me today. It means a lot to me. I'm looking forward to your comments. So for now, this is Phil, Shady Acres Woodshop, signing off.